Welcome. In the last chapter of our series, we already have our base, which is the rendering, but by adding a few layers of post, the video would look way better. Because when you observe the raw video right now, there are things which don't work, like the grass projection in the foreground looks a bit flat. Also, the bush in the background is kind of too big. It's just out of scale. And by adding layers of rain and fog, we can distract or even hide the imperfections out of 3D. I recommend just to add stock footages that you can buy or search on the internet. Some of it I will provide it to you, but the others you can just do research and find it on the internet. I admit that it's pretty basic because you're downloading everything from the internet. But the exercise is also more about producing something in a really short amount of time, which looks good and is hyper-realistic. Our animation is ready, and let's go to our output setting. And here you have all the necessary setting for your rendering. The resolution is clear. We have vertical format, 1080 to 1920. My frame rate is 0 frame to 140 frame. Also, the frame rate is 24 frames per second. And what you also have to set up is where your rendering is going. So my rendering is in a folder, and you can decide where you want to put them. One thing to keep in mind is, besides choosing the bin, you can also decide for the name of every frame. But even what is more important is you have the name and then an underline, and then you have 3 hashtags. So the 3 hashtags means instead of the hashtags, Blender will just export the number of your frame. So if you have 140 frames, obviously you have a 3-digit number after frame 100. So in this case, just put 3 hashtags. If you only have maximum 2-digit number, just put 2 hashtags, and then it's enough. When you have every rendering setting, just go to render and then render animation. I exported 140 frames of Eevee rendering. It should be pretty fast because everything is like real time. What you also need for After Effects is like a 3-dimensional 3D data, so that you can put the fog planes into the right place. So to do that, simply just, in this case, select our spaceship, the hero asset, and also the camera. So I have these 2 selected, and then I just go to File, Export, and then I have JSX. If you need more information about exporting 3D data from Blender to After Effects, just follow the link in the description below, where a YouTuber explained really well how to do it. To import the JSX file that you just exported before from Blender, you can just go into After Effects, go to File, Scripts, Run Script File, and then go to the location where you exported it, open it, name it to create a new sequence, find it, and there you have it. So I exported the camera and a empty. Okay, so you have the same movement of the spaceship and the movement of the camera. You don't even need this empty data, just forget what I said before. I think the camera is like more than enough. And let's say we have our rendering and we imported it into our scene. I rendered out 3 layers from Blender, but I think at the end it's enough for us to render everything out as 1 layer from Blender. And now let's import one of this footage that I also purchased ages ago. It's actually smoke. It's actually smoke, sorry. But in the right condition, it could look like water or like, you know, a little bit kind of like a fog, which is created by the pressure, or there's like little rain, and when there's like wind or pressure, it's creating this kind of foggy cloud situation. Sorry for my English. The smoke is just a 2D layer on top, like in Photoshop. Since we imported the 3D camera, I can turn this layer into a layer which is situated in the 3D scene by clicking the 3D button. The smoke footage now is a 3D plane in the 3D scene, and you can scale and move it to the right place where it belongs. I would say under the spaceship. We have the wind reacting on the left side. Now we need it on the other side too, because the landing forces the air into all directions away from the spaceship. Our stock footage is probably a smoke recording coming out of a pipe, I guess. So it has this kind of really thin line on the floor. And I think it really doesn't match to the scene. So what we can do here is to take the lasso and mask it out. Also go into the mask and change and play with the feather option to feather out the hard line so that the borderline of the mask is way softer. If you rotate and scale it a little bit, the same stock footage over and over again, you can also vary the stock footage when you vary it in the timeline. Just push the timeline to the front or to the back and play a little bit with it. I think people will not notice when you do it in a clever way that it's the same stock footage which is copied hundreds of times. At the end of our compositing session, we have some super light rain. You can barely see it. It's a little bit like a invisible filter, but when you observe it with more attention, you can see a light rain. I do think a super strong rain is more effort, because then you also need to simulate the strong raindrops hitting the surface of the spaceship, and that would cost us way more effort and time. So I chose the stock footage I purchased ages ago, and also don't forget to mark it as a 3D object. The transparency of the layers are only 2 to 3%, depending on your taste, so just a touch. The last layer is a water drop effect on our lens. Pretty easy and very effective. You can download it on YouTube for free. Also, we'll paste that link into the description so you can download it yourself. The stock footage has a black background, so once you imported it, first of all, it doesn't have to be a 3D object this time because the water drops is following directly the lens. Change the blending mode from normal to linear dodge, so the black part will be transparent. Okay, I think it makes a huge difference to add some layers of post effects on the raw render. It doesn't take too much time, but enhances the rendering a lot. This is my result at the end. Hopefully you learn something on the way or feel inspired that you can produce something maybe hyper realistic without too much work. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because I will certainly create more content with AI and traditional 3D in the future. Bye.